What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Spark to Fire podcast. I'm your host, Landon Rhodes, and today I'm here with Joey Hausmann. Joey, thank you so much for coming on the show today, my man.
You bet.
This is I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I'm going to get right into it. I want to hear a little bit about your upbringing. What were you like? First of all, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what were you like as a kid when you were growing up?
So Joey Hausmann, Butte, Nebraska. It's a small town of, it's an ag community, 450 people in the town. I think we stole the sign, so that's what the sign said is 452, but hopefully I don't get thrown in jail. But so that was in my dorm room for a little bit, I think. But so grew up with an ag family, farm and ranch. My mom was a nurse, and it was a Class D school in north central Nebraska. I think I graduated with like 18 kids in my class, and went to University of Nebraska, and always was kind of drawn to construction. It'd be my great uncle, so my dad's uncle was in construction out in Fort Collins, and we'd go out and visit him from time to time, and it was kind of weird. Like, ever since I was like 9 years old, I kind of had this like focus on like I want to be in construction. I didn't know what that meant, and then as I got into high school, I even talked to teachers about it, or like what a major could be. And so I went into engineering at UNL. Ag engineering was what I was going to start in, and then I heard about construction management at Nebraska. I didn't even know it existed. And so that semester, I then switched, and I found out from, I think the guy's name was Jeff Blazing, a friend of mine. He told me about it. He was majoring in that, and still a friend with him today, and he's works for another firm down in Kansas. But yeah, he told me about it, and I looked into it, and then switched my major, and then interned for a large national, actually global firm, and that was on like a heavy highway project, and realized I didn't want to be in heavy highway, but I wanted to do more like commercial type construction. And then interned for a local firm, and then I was kind of off and running, and wrapped up my my degree, and then started working. So.
And you started working, and you worked for a couple of various firms in Lincoln, right?
Yep, one out of Omaha, one in Lincoln.
Okay. Yep. And you worked there for a while. I mean, how long did you work? You were out.
So I took the 5-year route. I had a lot of fun in college, and
same.
Yeah, and it all kind of switched for me. So, I was doing the typical college thing, having too much fun, getting below average grades, and then got married and had my first child, Ashton, and then I was kind of like, whoa, I need to get my stuff together. And so, and then that's when I at that time I was actually working for a home builder in town, and he kind of taught me how to, how to manage the building of a home, how to finance it with a bank, and some of that stuff. But yeah, when I got married and we had Ashton, our oldest son, I went from being, like a 2.9 student to a 4.0 student for the next 2 semesters.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no. School's so easy when you go to class and you actually do the homework. And I did. I know, weird. Who would have thought? But so for 4 years I didn't do that, and then my 5th year, I kind of buckled down and was like, okay, man, like. I got a family. I need to figure this out.
So having a kid really
that was like,
having a kid was like, okay, this is real.
Hopefully that doesn't go to Ashton's head, but yeah, that was kind of the moment where I was like, okay, time to grow up, Joey.
Right.
And so, but growing up, I was always into sports, real active. Like in a small community like Butte, you're in FFA, you're in 4-H, you're in choir, you're in everything, and you play every sport, and that's kind of how those communities survive. And I remember I can't remember what it was, if it was FFA, or I think it was choir. I was in band. I mean, I was the kid that at halftime, the team would go in the locker room. I'd go grab my tri-toms, and I would walk around and play the band at halftime. And same thing with basketball and football, and that's just kind of how how you grow up in a small community. Cause
I know, yeah. So I grew up, there's a town of 500 people in Exeter, and that's exactly the same thing. Like there were some times when you were in homecoming and like you'd have to drop your pads, you'd have to go, you'd have to go back to band and you'd play because, that was a commitment too, right? Yeah. And everybody did everything. So
yeah, and so that's where I'm from, north central Nebraska. Grew up, hardworking family. I worked hard, but I probably played just as hard. Dad would send me out to chop thistles. I'd take my 22, and half the day I'd be spending shooting turtles in the pond or doing whatever. Just being a hick.
Just doing things in Butte. Butte life. And so that was one moment, where you kind of like leveled up, you'd say, like, when you started getting better grades and, you really kind of got stuff together, you had some time with that home builder to kind of learn the business aspect of it. But when, the whole point of the show is called Spark to Fire, which is basically, unpacking like that moment when you took your idea or your concept to a reality, or you made a significant change in your life that really put you on the trajectory that you are today.
Sure.
And so what moment led to you starting Hausman Construction?
Yeah. Okay. So I graduate and I interned for a couple different companies, and then I working for a local firm, and I kept having these like aha moments of, okay, this isn't that complicated. I mean, or like, wow, that's how this works. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I started out in the field. And then I moved into the office and I started estimating. And as I was the guy that like was just kind of a nerd in regards to work. I would get there early so I could handle more things, and then also would stay late to make sure that this estimate was right. And as I saw how bids were put together and how you procured work, I was like, okay, this is a lot simpler than you have this perception of, oh my goodness.
Wow.
I'll never forget, I was walking through like a career fair trying to figure out, maybe where I was going to work after I graduate. And there was this one booth and there was a lady there, and she was showcasing their project and trying to recruit talent. And I was looking at them like, man, I had to have no idea where to start with that project. And she's like, well, it's pretty simple. You start with the earthwork, and then you put footings in the ground, and then you put the building on top of the footings. And like, she literally like
broke it down.
Yeah, that was a dumb statement. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, you probably start at the bottom. You don't start building the building from the top down.
Weird.
Yeah, wild, huh?
Wild concept.
Yeah, but so, but anyway, so as I like figured it out, I was, thought, okay, maybe this is something I could do on my own someday. And then, I was at a company that, it's, nice firm, good people. Just, I didn't feel like there was a lot of opportunity for me to grow there. Mm-hmm. And even though I'd gained a bunch of knowledge and felt like I was managing a lot of work, and it just eventually got to the point where I'm like, okay, what do I have to lose? Like our fully mortgaged house and the rusty car that I'm driving, and right. We were, and my wife, like I would push snow on weekends or whenever there was a snow event that would happen. So my wife's got car seats in front of this like 1-ton Dodge truck with a snowplow on the front of it. I don't know what she was thinking when she married me.
Oh, I love that picture.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
great.
And so I'm like, okay, so like, why wouldn't I try and do this on my own? So we were living in this tiny little starter home, west side of Lincoln, and I started building some houses on the side, and it got to where I was making more, building a few homes, kind of moonlighting, doing that, to where it just made sense for me to go on my own. Mm-hmm. And so did that, but I knew that I wanted to eventually focus on commercial work. And so the thing that I tell everyone was the biggest hurdle for me, is this like, do you want me to keep going this direction?
No, I love this. Okay. Yeah, I want to hear about this. Yep.
It was like, I literally, when we started, like Hausman Construction our resume was a blank sheet of paper. And I know that sounds cliche or whatever, but like literally it was Hausman Construction. I'm like, okay, well, let's get our first project. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was basically a shitter. The brick restrooms that you see at like ball fields.
Yeah.
The university built one of those out in Air Park. They have like this leadership training center out there. And so we built a women's and men's restroom out in the middle of this field, put in a septic tank. And that was our first project. And, it went okay. It was fine. But, I was 23 at the time, I think,
Incredible.
or 24. Just, a couple of years out of school, a year and a half out of school. And then after that, it just kept progressing. And so, one of the guys I interned with would have been, 3 years prior or whatever for that global firm was Matt Shent. And he was a good friend of mine. I was in his wedding. We were in each other's weddings and, just stayed in touch. And he was working out west. And I had a housing development and I was trying to start some commercial work. And so I talked to him, convinced him to come back. Don't know what he was thinking. I don't know. I honestly don't know why. And so he's
go build more shitters in Air Park. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and he was there for that. And so that was him, Derek Hess, and Molly. Those three guys were kind of like my first three employees, and started out of the basement of my house. And then I bought this acreage, and we basically had like this. It was probably like a 40 by 40 like shed that had an overhead door and like 2 offices and a bunch of mice. And so that was like, yeah. And so Molly was there, and I was in the back office, and Shent was driving around checking projects, and so that's how we started. And then we just kept doing the next project, and we went out state for quite a while. We did the Atkinson Public Library, the Thomas County Courthouse in Thedford, and then got back to Lincoln and started doing some work for Lincoln Public Schools and Harmon Park Activity Center in Kearney, and just kind of kept landing work wherever we could. And all of that was just completely hard bid. Like, we had to be the lowest bid, otherwise we weren't going to get hired. Because why would anyone hire someone without a resume, without project experience?
So you're working for free for those projects?
Yeah, we would have a fee, but we tried to make as much as possible. But we just had to be the low bid to get the job, and we started proposing on like what's called negotiated work, where you interview and you show your expansive, resume. And so we've got firms that have been around 80 years that we're competing against, and and we've got this short resume, and everyone. I don't know how many times like we heard, "Hey, we really like you guys, but you're just." And it's like literally for like 7 years, we'd go to these interviews, and we were just persistent. And I think that was probably one of my biggest things is, and for the longest time, it was Matt and I going to these interviews and just being persistent and not giving up, and being told no.
1,000 times.
1,000 times, but then eventually we began becoming successful with those interviews and getting selected, and now it's probably about 80% of our backlog, or the current projects we have, are negotiated projects. So,
wow,
yeah,
that's incredible. So going from building something seemingly not that important to now building CBA at the University of Nebraska. I mean, you guys have had tremendous, that takes a long time to build, but you've built it in a pretty short period of time, to say what you guys have done. Yeah. So was there any big project you look back on and like, that was the one, like we really like that added to our resume in such a way? Was there any projects like that? Or was just like the kind of the culmination?
But there's like 10 of them. Cause it's like, I'll never forget when, we landed Kohler Middle School, and, it was a $5 million hard bid project, and we were like $60,000 lower than our competition, and it was like, holy smokes, let's go to Sizzler and celebrate, we hit it big time. So at that moment in time, that was such a huge project for us. And then, after that, being selected for the intermediate school at Norris was huge. I mean, it's a school district that my kids go to. And there'd been a couple previous contractors that had done all the work there, everything prior. And for us to get selected, that was one of our first, that really catapulted us to the next level. And I think a lot of other school districts and other entities across the state saw that we were selected by them. Mm-hmm. And Norris kind of took a little bit of a leap of faith on us that they knew that we would want to do good and that we'd take a lot of pride in what we were doing out there. And so, they selected us, and the project was a great success. We worked well with the architecture firm and with the school district. And so that was another project that was huge because it was a negotiated project. And then the next one after that, I would say was the 50/50, which is a parking structure downtown.
Oh, I didn't even know you guys did that.
Yeah, with the housing on top of it.
Yeah.
And, it was a big, $40-some million project.
Huge deal.
And the schedule was unbelievably tough to where other people kind of shied away from it. But Dominic Vaccaro and those guys out of Omaha that were the developers of it believed in us and hired us to do it. And so, it was a tough schedule, tough project, but we knocked it out of the park. And so, they just kind of keep continuing.
Was that kind of an intro to more university work? Because, and we'll talk a little bit about your next big upcoming project here, but was that kind of an intro to more of that work, do you think? Or
I think, again, it was, surprising to a lot of people because, the barriers to entry on these, to have a construction company, there's multiple barriers to entry. Like you've got to have like the financial capability. You have to be bonded, mm-hmm. but then you also have to have the talent to get it done.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. And that's one thing that we've really focused on is taking care of our people, letting them know that they're appreciated and make sure that we understand what they're going through and if and providing opportunity for them to grow. And so so just there's multiple barriers of entry for this type of company, and so to kind of figure out the secret sauce has been something that's been fun, but something that we've obviously been successful with.
What do you think your secret sauce is? You don't have to obviously go into detail, but in general, do you think it's just I think it's your guys' culture. What makes you really special is your work hard, play hard culture. The first time I came to your open house, I got to see just how serious people were about their work, but at the same time, we're just like you, they're going to take their 22 to the, to go cut thistles. You know what I mean? The side of the work hard, play hard culture that you've developed there. How did you go about developing that? Is that just people or what did you do?
When I had, I'd worked at a couple different places before I started my own company, experienced the culture there and realized that it wasn't what I wanted to be a part of.
Just wasn't.
Yeah. You want people to work hard, obviously, right? But that doesn't mean you can't have fun. It doesn't mean you can't, poke your head out of your office. And I'd been at places before where it's like if you're head's not down working, or you're smiling, it's like, what's wrong with you, dude? Get back to work. We're working. We're not having fun.
This isn't fun.
Yeah, and so I didn't want to have that, and I've surrounded myself with people that agree with that, and I think that's created an attraction to other like-minded people that our guys will absolutely grind with the best of them and work hard, but we try and have some fun along the way. The secret sauce for me absolutely has been our people. Our culture's big, but our people make that up, and I'll put our people up against anybody, and so they handle themselves as if they're owners and as if they're owners of the company, and they know how much our reputation matters and their reputation matters, and so we just trying to continue that, and that's one thing that's
how do you seed that? How do you? I'm curious from my standpoint, how do you seed that into people, and obviously just you caring a tremendous amount about your company is going to rub off on them. If you don't care about your reputation, why should they, type of thing.
Yeah.
But how else are you actively putting that into the point? Now, okay, excuse me, I take that back, early, because now it's obvious. You're working on multi-million-dollar jobs for
Yeah.
several different entities, university, that sort of stuff. Like, people know there's high stakes. Your banners are all around town.
Sure.
But before your banners are around town, how did you get them to buy into that idea that, like, we have a reputation to uphold, this is who we are? Like, what did you do?
I just think certain people just have that ingrained in them, and I've surrounded myself with those type of people. And then talent attracts talent. It probably sounds cliche, but
it's true.
But it's true. Like, you bring in some talented people and you provide them opportunity. And like, I'm a guy that prides myself on not getting in the way of things. And like Matt Shent, the guy I was talking about earlier, he's in Omaha running the Omaha office, and I go over there as much as I'm able to. But that's his baby, and he's running with it, and he's doing a great job over there and building his own team. But also he's been, he was in the Lincoln office for a lot of years, and so
with the mice.
He was with the mice.
With the mice.
He was with the mice, and so he's been a huge part of growing that. And I think that we attract the best because of the workplace that we've created.
Yeah.
And we care. We seek feedback from our employees, and we try and improve. Like, one thing was, where I'd worked at before, we didn't really like have formal reviews, and so I never really I feel like I'm doing well, but am I doing well? And that was some feedback we got from some of our employees, and so we've amped up our review process and try and be real intentional with that. And the other thing is our executive team that we have, that's kind of like been developed over the last, whatever it's been, 16 years. They're just a great group of individuals, and really help lead the company.
Yeah, no, and I mean, all of this is happening, right? So you're growing this massive general contractor firm, construction management firm. You're growing this thing, and all of a sudden, tragedy hits you.
Yeah.
Like, you have been through an insane amount of tragedy as a young man.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and obviously referring to when Rebecca passed away. You're plugging away, having success with business, you have 5 kids, and all of a sudden the shoe drops, and it's like, whoa, like, okay, we need to figure this out. Like, not just my executive team, which Chad Wiles, Rachel Glock, Stan Beater, all people Matt Shent, but also the people out in the field that are like managing the projects. Like, I had so much confidence in all of them. I could just focus on her and my 5 kids. And so I really did that. And I'd never experienced, loss like that before. Right. I mean, people lose a grandparent or, and you hear about it, but for it to like kind of just hit you in the face like that is, debilitating. And so I would come to the office from time to time, but it was almost like I took a sabbatical, because I was just trying to help figure out like how to fix her,
right.
And like, where do we need to go? Like, is there a doctor here or there or whatever? And so she eventually then passes away after a 6-month courageous battle, fighting the fight, and then you have the grieving part of it, which it's been 3.5 years, and I'm still going through that
right.
at different times. But my team and the entire company just absolutely rallied around us, and I didn't have to worry about a thing.
That's amazing.
And I think that's a testament to them. They, I kind of step away, even though I'm there, I wasn't present.
Right.
My mind was elsewhere, and I was trying to figure myself out, trying to make sure my kids are good. And it's weird how you just like all of a sudden don't care about things that you cared about before. And but I had people in place that did care. And about a year later, I was talking to my guys. I'm like, okay, so I kind of step away from the company, or I'm kind of aloof, and you guys grow the business and make it more profitable. I'm like, okay, you need me, but I don't know why you need me. You know, like I'm
I
coming
gotta
back.
figure out why I have a job here.
Yeah, I'm coming back, even though you guys don't need me to. But
that's incredible. Like, and you're not going to take the credit for this because you're a humble guy, but like you need, like, that's incredible. The fact that you put them in the position to lead while you were in this state of duress, and that all this shit was happening to you, and you have 5 kids that are witnessing all of this. So you're not just managing your own mentality, you're helping manage theirs.
Yeah.
And you got your people in a position to a point to where they were able to lead, grow, and become more profitable within the business.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to take the credit for that, but I'm going to give you credit. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, that's
is.
just, it's really a testament to them. There's, I mean, obviously I have a hand in that, but that just tells you how, I mean, we've got some studs, and they're
That's
just
amazing.
they're great people, unbelievably hardworking, honest, you know, high integrity people, and you know, I think it's also a function of, you know, I get out of the way, I get someone hired, and like let them do their thing. Don't, you know, trust but verify, right?
Trust but verify, absolutely. And so you've been able to do that. You've been able to achieve this massive growth even since that point.
And that's something I've kind of had to figure out, because like Rebecca was my motivation. You know,
That's
like,
what
like,
I was about to ask
like,
that.
I
Yeah.
mean, she was like the hot, cool chick that I'm like, I don't know why she's with me. I
I gotta work really hard.
I gotta
to
make it
that-
rain.
to
You know,
make this happen.
even though she was like this humble, like she just wanted to buy groceries and shoes for the kids. You know. But so for me, I've had to try and like figure that out. Like, okay, like what's my motivation? And I obviously got 5 kids and plenty to be motivated. But you kind of lose sight of that when you're like in the dark depths of like grieving and losing your best friend, and you're like your rock. I mean, she was absolutely my rock, and she would put me in my place quicker than anyone. But also, you know, like she was there for me, you know, through thick and thin. And so that's something that I've had to, you know, kind of work through or whatever. But, you know, you never know what life's going to throw you. And, you know, you always got to have perspective. And, you know, her brother or her whole family has had great perspective about it. We all miss her dearly, but we all know where she's at, and that's where we want to get. And so I'm just gonna try and make as much noise here while I can before I try and get there as well. So.
I love that mentality. And I actually got, this is really strange, but I got hired by Adam the day after the funeral.
Oh, really?
To trade us.
Yeah.
So and I remember, I mean, just feeling so horrible about it, like the day I started, because, you know, like it was such a sad thing when we got there, but his mentality, and like he shared that with you, and like he talked a little bit about that when I first got there. Like, we talk about it all the time, but like we know where she's at. Yeah, I remember him saying that. Yeah, and it's a really powerful statement. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yep.
So you have some really awesome projects coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk about the exciting stuff. I'm sure that you have plenty to motivate you now. You have projects on the horizon. Yeah. Talk about the cool stuff that you guys just, I mean, this is like 2 weeks ago. I think you guys just
we just got selected for, and actually yesterday we just had our kickoff meeting for the new Husker facility, and so it's really exciting. It's going to be a state of the art, lead the nation type of facility, you know, and we don't design anything, but to be a part of it during the design and, you know, kind of help shepherd the process with the construction management risk process is really fun. And, you know, you grow up being the kid that wants to be a Husker and being a huge fan, and then wanting to, you know, be a part of the Husker program any way you can. The other thing is I got a son that's going to be playing down there next year, and a couple of years later he'll be practicing in the best facility in the nation, with the best coach and the best fans. Yeah, I mean, like it's unbelievable. And so our team, you know, is excited to get going on that. That project's, you know, that's a game changer for us. So it's going to be neat to be a part of that.
That's really cool. I mean, that's a massive project too. I mean, in terms of like company growth, I'm sure you guys are going to have to expand. If not, you already have expanded to that point.
So we've been pretty. So a lot of people are like, man, I can't believe how quickly you guys grew, and I'm like, where you been? Like, this has been a grind for like 16 years.
Yeah.
It didn't happen overnight,
No.
although like to some it seems like it has. We've been pretty mindful about our growth, and it seems like we'll grow, have a spurt of growth, and then we kind of level off for a little bit, and that's intentional because we're wanting our talent to keep up with our growth, and so our people, we keep bringing our people up and giving them opportunity, and so.
Would you say that the talent is a little bit ahead of the growth, even a little bit, just so that like by the time it gets there, you guys are ready to execute now?
Yeah, for
rather
sure.
than trying to play from behind and pick up some talent that you may not want as bad.
Yeah, and our my management team does a great job of showing a clear path to our employees about, okay, here's the steps you need to do, here's the things you need to work on. That's why those reviews are, selfishly, it's for them, right? They want the reviews, but we want it because it helps us guide them on their shortcomings, and we all have them. We all have things that we need to get better at, and us as a company, we have things we need to get better at, and so, it's been good. We just no matter how good we are now, next year we want to be better, and we hope to continue to grow. We're kind of more regional now. We have an office in Denver, so we have Lincoln's our headquarters, and where we began, and then we have an office in Omaha, office in Norfolk. We have an office in Denver that's just kind of getting started. We've got some exciting projects out there. Colorado School of Mines, we're doing a parking garage out there, and there's like 6 to 8 school projects that we're doing out in the Denver market. Awesome. Our Front Range, I should say. And then we're down in Kansas City as well. When you have the tower crane downtown Lincoln, or Omaha, we just finished the Epley parking garage. Mm-hmm. It's exciting because it kind of builds some momentum, but then you got to keep it going, and you got to feed the monster, so to speak.
I was just gonna say that. So when I first, I think one of the first times I met you, it was at when I mic'd you up at the grand opening. Yeah. And I walked by you. I'm like, so what do you do now? Like, what next? Like, you've got all these massive projects, and you just like stopped and you looked at me. He's like, got to feed the beast. Yeah. And you just kept walking. I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and so the projects just keep coming in and in and in. Yeah. And so, but you always got to keep, and our marketing group's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And you know the gals I got in that department, and they do a great job. Ashley, Bree, and Jesse, they're phenomenal. But every time we submit a proposal, I'm like, all right, this looks great, but you know what sucks is the next one's got to be better than this one. So like you got and it's true though. You always got to. You can't rest on your laurels. You got to just keep trying to be cutting edge, and when you feel like the other thing is like motivating to me early on was I was the underdog, and I got told no a lot, and I was persistent, and my persistence has paid off, obviously, but like when you're the underdog, you're motivated, and there's times where like we feel like okay, we should be not an underdog in this scenario, but I always try and figure out a way that no, we're the underdog, and here's why, and that way we keep that hunger, and because if you start to think you're the best, you need to be looking in the mirror and figuring out how you can be better. So right, no, and that's there's always somebody that's gunning for you in this absolutely world. And like it's entrepreneurship, right? I mean there's always somebody that's got your number. Yeah, and, absolutely, and competition's good because it. We've made our competition better. Our competition's made us better, and it's just like, that's America, right? And you compete, even you competing locally, making each other better. When you guys both go out to different markets, say you explore into Denver, you're no longer that 75% of 100 version that you are now. So like they help make you that much better. So when you go attack the Denver market to come against these even bigger GCs in the Midwest, you're the guy. Yeah. So what's different about the Joey 10 years ago than the Joey today? Yeah. So 10 years ago, we've, expanded to where we have probably around 300 employees currently.
in multiple office locations. I mean, 10 years ago, I was more actively involved in every aspect of the day-to-day operations. And the talent that we've added to our company allows me to kind of take a step back, and I'm much more big picture oriented, and like one of my biggest roles is attracting more talent to the company. And 10 years ago it was more like, okay, let's just make sure that we get off to the right start. I never ever thought we would grow it to the point that we're at today.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. I mean, I literally remember telling Rebecca at one point, well, when I left, she's like, "You sure you know what you're doing?" I'm like, "No, I don't." But what's the worst that can happen, right? And I think that fear of failing is something that I think holds people back. And my thing was like, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
They're going to take our fully financed house, and
But you had that mentality well before you experienced tragedy though.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to me, because I'll be honest, I thought, and you clearly grew way, way faster before anything bad happened, or to that level. But I'm amazed to me that you just got so used to hearing no, and so used to being the underdog in those scenarios. You're just like, it's the worst that can happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my house, I'll go, what are they going to take my food? I'll go to my tablet.
Ignorance is bliss, right?
Right.
Just work hard and put your nose down. And so, and I remember saying, I think that, and this is very early on, if we could do $1 million a year in revenue, we could maybe, make $65,000 a year. This will be unbelievable. And
right, guys?
Yeah. And Beck's like, okay, well, I'm going to go get groceries. And it's but so that's, kind of the mentality when we started. But then we just continued to grow. And then, 10 years ago, I was right in the thick of actively managing projects. And I'm not near as good at that as the people I have hired today. And so I've always tried to surround myself with people smarter than me, which hasn't been difficult, by the way. But
you're a humble guy, man.
Yeah, but yeah, and so I think some people are afraid of someone potentially being smarter or better than them in some way, and I've always been attracted to people, that are more talented in this way or that way than me. I've never walked in the room and thought, man, I'm the smartest guy in the room, And so, my general counsel is an unbelievable attorney and is great with law and other things. And my CFO, she's incredible with accounting. And, I probably got a D+ in accounting in college. But so, attracting those talented people to the company has really been kind of my role as of late compared to early on. Early on, I was in the thick of trying to manage things, and lately it's more like, okay, within the company, what's the missing piece, and where are we going to find that person? Mm-hmm. But even with that, my roles changed because, Chad Wiles, VP, that's
great
been
dude.
with us, great dude. Talk about a stud, right?
Yeah.
Him and Matt both. He's a big part of his job now is attracting more talent, and same thing with Matt over in Omaha and building his team. Mm-hmm. And so just figuring out how I can support those guys and help them accomplish what they want to, but also they know how important it is for them to empower people and get them working and not hold them accountable, but not be breathing down their neck either.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's the difference between the micromanaging and empowering people, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's really interesting to me. You talked about when you walk in the room, you don't feel like you're the smartest guy there. That lack of ego, and so you obviously are a very confident dude. You've built something incredible. Where do you think your confidence comes from? Is it just your ability to just your persistence? I've heard you mention that a couple of times, but because you're not very ego driven. People may have that misconception about somebody that runs such a big firm.
Yeah.
But so what do you think, where do you get your confidence from?
I don't know. I think I've always had it. I think it's one of those things you're kind of born with to a certain degree, but then as events happen in life, I've I've had several moments that question, my confidence. But at the same time, I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like it's something that, you build over time, and you kind of like every day is a new chapter in the book that you're writing. And, and I talk to my kids about this all the time. Like, every day you're building your resume, and what happened last week, Coop, that wasn't a real great thing on your resume.
I don't like that on your resume.
That's my sophomore. No, he's a great kid. But, and so, yeah, I just think that events happen throughout life. And I think sports is a huge thing. Going through high school, playing sports and being active with that, it's a great team building thing, and also a confidence builder, and also like keeps you in check and can be humbling as well. So I think that kind of started it off as my experience with sports. I wanted to be a Nebraska Cornhusker football player like every boy in Nebraska, and I tried to be, and that didn't work out. And that was pretty humbling.
When did you know?
What's that?
When did you know you weren't going to be able to do that?
When Coach D met with me and said, hey, you hit harder than we expect and you effort harder than we expect, but you're just not quite fast enough. And I was like, yeah, that's all I've worked on is my speed for the last year and a half. And so if I'm not fast enough, it's just not meant to be. Mm-hmm. And so
that's self-awareness though. That's a really, to be that at that age and to understand, to be that self-aware. Did you actually just take that and be like, this isn't for me, I'm going to do something else?
I could have transferred and went and played football at some other college, which would have been fine, but it just wasn't my dream. And so I'm like, okay, that wasn't my dream, so I'm going to, have some fun. And so I had fun for a few years, and then I got married, and I was like, okay, I need to quit having fun. I need to figure this out.
Yeah,
so,
I get that. So who was, throughout your career, who has kind of been a huge mentor to you? Who do you look up to?
Well, growing up, I don't know that I knew anyone that was harder working than my dad. And so he was a huge influence on me. And so that has been, early on, that was someone that, I looked up to and just saw how he went about his business and how hard he worked and, worked for everything he got. And so, that was big. And then, locally there's several different business people, and still to this day, if there's someone that's successful, business-wise, I want to meet with them.
Yeah.
I just want to pick their brain, not be intrusive, but just almost kind of hear their story and try and understand what they're going through. And it's unbelievable. Some of the most successful guys, how they hit rock bottom and thought, oh man, at this point I was maybe going to go broke, but we buckled down and figured this out, and
now look at them.
Right. And I don't want to repeat their stories or anything because they trusted me with it. But yeah, there's several of those people locally. But the other thing that having a really good attorney, currently now with my general counsel, but even before that, having a really good attorney that I trusted made me unbelievably confident. Same thing with accounting. The CPA firm that represented me just gave me the confidence that I was doing things the right way.
Yeah.
And so just having those correct consultants that would, because you don't know what you don't know.
No.
And so to bring those guys in, that's, they maybe, charge, more than option B, but to have the confidence that you're absolutely doing everything right. That was something that early on, Alan was a guy that mentored me early on and actually helped me when I got started, co-signed my first big note. I was a, I don't know if I had $10,000 in the account or whatever, and I went and signed a purchase agreement to buy a piece of ground for $1.2 million and needed another $2 million to develop this ground.
And that was your first development, right?
That was my first development, and I was 23.
You built around the house where you were looking at
where that shop was,
you were looking at plans on that pool table, right? That
was actually the house after the pool table house,
Oh, okay, so this is after that point. Okay, but that's the development, though, that you were living in and you were going around and actually developing, but you were coming back to your kind of home base in the center of it, right? I remember Adam telling me about that.
Yeah, for sure. Named one of the cul-de-sac in the middle of the development after Rebecca Ickes Court, and so,
cool.
I. started with that, and that was another guy that mentored me and actually helped me get started. And he's done this for like, I don't know, 90 or some people here locally. Yeah, helps them get started. Just like helps them initially, and then he backs away, and like you either make it or you don't. And so that's really kind of the, when I left, that happened, did that development, and actually got kind of completed with that before the crash, the housing crash in like 07 and 08, And so that's kind of how I got kick-started, and then just kept building my resume. And, I just, where else other than America can this like type of story happen? It's like, it's the best.
You literally lived the American dream. Like,
yeah,
you came
it's
from
been great,
Nebraska,
and it doesn't come without adversity and sad times or like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But, yeah, it's been an unbelievable ride. I miss my wife incredibly. And I've had to try and not reinvent myself, but like just do some reflecting and try and figure out
what's next.
What's next and what keeps me ticking. And I got my 5 kids that is a big focus of my life. Between work and my kids, that's kind of like about all I do. That's it. Mix in a little hunting, and a little bit of golf. But so that's kind of it.
And that this comes to kind of a really, really good stopping point. I'm kind of curious though, when your time on Earth here is up, and this is your last day, like, what do you want the world to remember Joey Hausmann as?
Okay.
What do you want people to think of when they think of your name?
And I obviously hope that Hausmann Construction continues on, and but really my legacy is my kids. And being a single dad right now, they had a lot of great years with their mom, and she was an unbelievable mother and influenced them a lot. But here, since she's been gone, like, I've taken a much more active role, and obviously as I have to, and I have a ton of support with friends and family and all that sort of stuff. But really, like, that's how I'll be remembered. I just my legacy is my kids, and I mean, business wise, I obviously want to be remembered for that, but it's not as important as the family side. But business wise, I just want to be remembered as the guy that, like, dreamt big and went for it. And there's a ton of kids out there that have way more potential than I do and are smarter than I do, and like, don't be afraid to chase your dream, like, and don't be afraid to dream big either. So the country we live in, like, anything can happen. And there's a ton of unbelievable stories just even within 10 miles of here, within Lincoln, just looking around, like, so that's one thing with UNL is an unbelievable university, and it kind of got me started. But like, one of the best things I did was take an entrepreneurial class, and that was my last semester at school. And I really also think that helped me kind of open my eyes as to how people get going with something, because you're kind of trained to become a worker, with college. And it's good, like, we need that. But, when if anyone ever leaves my company, and I'm not encouraging anyone to leave my company, but when
let the record reflect.
Yes, I want everyone to stay and work for me. But there's been a few that have left, and I've, like, I'll say, hey, we're gonna miss you. Like, I'd love for you to stay, but like, if you're chasing your dream, like,
who am I?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like, how could I tell you shouldn't do that?
Respect. That's cool. Yeah, that says a lot about your character and who you are as a boss right there.
Thank you.
That's a huge deal. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Guys, thank you so much for watching Spark to Fire. Obviously a ton of really good content in here. I'm sure it was a big note-taking episode for anybody watching or listening. As always, you can find us at Spark to Fire Podcast on all social media. And thank you so much for watching. Keep striking.